This is definitely above my grade C level high school science, so I'm glad that we've got the speaker that we have. He is one of the most respected people in the world in his area of expertise. So let's just let that sink in for a moment. One of the most respected people in the world. And we are thrilled to have him here at our Jeunesse conference, a part of our Jeunesse family, because of the great things that we have here. He has a phenomenal background that includes working with people on a one-to-one individual basis, but he also has been on some major television shows, CNN, Anderson Cooper, Geraldo, Dr. Phil. He's used to working with a number of different celebrities. He travels all over the world to speak as keynote speakers in this area of expertise, and he was part of a team and was nominated for the Nobel Prize. So, I think you know what he's talking about. Alright, so let's give a big round, warm welcome. Go on your feet, please, for Dr. Vincent Giampapa.
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here and to see a lot of new faces in the Jeunesse family. How many people here are actually new members or first time here to the Jeunesse? Well, this is the majority. Okay, that's great. I'll start with a little story. 5 years ago, I was approached by Randy, Wendy, and some of the executive team to represent this company from a scientific point of view. And I was very, very hesitant because we know certain MLM businesses in the past have not had the real credibility to withstand a lot of things that happen regarding product claims and things. Despite that, what convinced me was meeting Wendy and Randy personally, and the honesty and the real passion they had for doing something that would make a difference to change people's lives. And as you know, Jeunesse not only is a business, but it's a source of funding for children, it's a source of funding for many, many philanthropic organizations. And the combined kind of image of what the company represented was more important to me than anything else. So with that in mind, I decided I would come on board. And within a year, I truly understood that what was happening in Jeunesse wasn't just another business, but really it was an opportunity to educate people about how they can stay healthier, how they can improve the quality of their life and time. And to me, that was the most important thing. It wasn't really the money, it wasn't really all the traveling, which is a lot of fun, but it was really about being able to take the information and the research we've studied for years and being able to give that in a simpler format to people like you who can then change your lives, but more importantly, everybody you touch, you can change their lives. And so when you sign up as a distributor for Jeunesse, you're not really just signing up for a business, you're becoming, and I use this phrase frequently, an ambassador to health. You become somebody who gets educated on how really to change people's lives. And Dr. Amsalag, his slides were really, really kind of interesting because one of his slides said, information and emotions can change your DNA, and that's a fact, okay? So we're gonna talk a little bit about all of this, how all of this works, and his introduction to the science behind this will probably help what I'm gonna say. And some of the things will be repetitive, but that's okay. Again, keep in mind, what you're doing today, what you're learning today are pieces of information that will change your lives and actually work to change your DNA. So first of all, this is me in the Costa Rican rainforest. I have the opportunity to travel all over the world. And most of the times I'm wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, so don't let this suit fool you. I'm all over the place and I'm looking for whatever we can find that's a natural source that can really impact our health. And I don't know if you know, about 30% of medications come from plant extracts. This is prescription medications. So what you're looking at and what you're going to see is a whole new science that goes way beyond vitamins and minerals. So we'll get into that, okay? But first, when we first started Jeunesse, the question was, what can we do to be different from all the other MLMs? Now, there's certain companies that have cleaning compounds, vitamins, drinks, everything. but they don't work together as a synergistic system, and they really weren't focused on, if you will, cellular health or anti-aging. So the focus from Jeunesse in the beginning was, how do we create products that not only help you stay healthier, but then how do each one of those products work synergistically together, so as you use more of the system, you get more results. Okay, so the key thing here is, you know, William Amslag, Dr. Amslag said that the cell. So in one of my books, which I'll show you at the end, we talk about looking at a problem from the basic unit. So if each one of us are made of 100 trillion cells, each cell has 5 feet of DNA, each cell has 23 pairs of chromosomes and has about 30 genes. Only maybe 10% of those genes at one time are even turned on. Every decade, the genetic clock changes, so another gene gets turned on. So this is all stuff we've learned, okay? But the secret was, how do you keep one cell healthy? Once you learn the basics, you can apply that to the 100 trillion or 60 trillion cells that make the human body. And our research over the last 10 years has really gotten us to the point where we not only can understand the basics, but a little more than the basics, and we can relay that information to you on a more simple kind of level. So we just talked about this. This is packed into one cell, okay? Imagine 5 feet of DNA inside each cell, multiply that times 50 trillion or 100 trillion. That's enough DNA to go to the moon and back again multiple times. So my first thought is, gee, this must be important. We have that much DNA, okay? So when the system was been designed, we were looking at how do we create products, again, that have a different focus and theme than all the other MLM products. How can we do something where as you start to use different products, you age and feel better? It's not just saying we're going to make you feel, you have to feel the difference. And one of the things that's made Jeunesse a big success is when you take AMPM, when you take Reserve, you feel different, you feel more energetic. You can do things, you notice a difference, and we've actually measured this, in, not with these products, but very similar products and ingredients to show that there is a difference. Okay, for instance, these topical skincare products, they work from the outside in. Reserve, Affinity, and AMPM work from the inside out. So what you're really doing is impacting the aging process from both ends, okay? And that's what gives you more results. So that's one of the things that was designed into the Yes system, was the inside out, outside in approach. The other things that were designed into the Yes system were to begin to work on the basic unit of what makes you up, yourself. Okay? So you saw the slide before. Many people here say I'm healthy, okay? But what they don't realize is you get used to feeling the way you do. When you were 21, I can guarantee you felt a lot healthier than you do now, okay? And as you age, that quality of health you get used to kind of slowly diminishes. So one of the things we were trying to figure out is, well, really, why does that happen? And we're pretty much there now. So the solution, that is, working at the basic process of cellular aging, begins with your cells. And this product took me over 10 years to design, multiple millions of dollars of research and clinical testing, and originally was going to come out as a medication. So we decided not to do that, but to take it out to the public, because to come out as a medicinal would have taken about another 7 to 10 years, and it would have never reached the number of people that you, the ambassadors of health, can take it to. Okay, so let's do a basic, this is going to be a crash course in anti-aging 101 in the next 8 minutes to 10 minutes. So every one of you are composed of your body cells, right? Out of the 100 trillion cells that make us up, 98% of those are body cells. But as those body cells get worn out, they have to be replaced, okay? And after they go through a certain amount of divisions, the body sends a signal to what we are called stem cells. And stem cells are what then renew and replace your body cells. And I like to use the analogy of a Ferrari, and we're going to come back to this. So every one of you are these very expensive Ferraris. But guess what? Your Ferrari that you're born with has no gas cap. So you get one tank of gas. If you drive 150 miles an hour, you're not going as far as somebody's driving 50 miles an hour. Your engine's going to wear out, your parts are going to break down quickly, and although it might be a shiny little body, with red paint on it, it's stopping and it's not going down the highway of life. So stem cells, the secret to living healthier, longer lives is to keep your stem cells healthy as well as keeping your body cells functioning optimally. And we're going to come back to this over and over again. When I say stem cells, there's really 3 types of stem cells. So it's not just one type. For instance, there's hematopoietic stem cells. So what do they do? Okay, these stem cells are basically responsible for your immune function and making red blood cells and other things. Think of them as your immune reserve. Mesenchymal stem cells are ones that are kind of the general stem cells. They can turn into muscle, bone, cartilage. Now we know even neuronal tissue. Okay, and your endothelial progenitor cells grow blood vessels. So when you look at this, you realize, gee, I better keep all 3 of those cell types in good health, because as my heart gets damaged, as my muscles and joints and cartilage start to get damaged, those babies better be working so they can go where they need to go and kind of fix things. And if you really think about it, what do we all eventually die from? Well, we usually die from a weakened immune system. We either get cancer, pneumonia, or we become allergic to ourselves, autoimmune diseases. Or mesenchymal stem cells. We usually have a problem with our joints or cartilage, our muscles, we become frail, we fall. And our endothelial progenitor cells, well, if we can't grow new blood vessels as they get damaged, our heart, our legs, we can't function, we can't really move, and we can't enjoy the things that life really brings us. So the secret was to try to keep all 3 of these cell types healthy, and not just the body cells. Okay, so I put this diagram together about 8 years ago, and the laser pointer on this too. Doesn't matter. Okay, so if you look at the column here on the far left, that really represents both of your cell types. You have stem cells and your body cells. Now, cells age like your body ages. Okay, so if your cells are aging poorly, your body's aging poorly. The primary thing that causes cells to age is damage to your DNA. Your DNA, by the way, inside the center of the cell, which we're going to see an animation of in a minute, is one set of software. The other set of software is in another little part of your cell called the mitochondria, and that's where the energy that your cell needs to run comes from. So if you think as the nuclear DNA as your library or your central software, and the mitochondrial DNA as the energy software, if there's not enough energy being produced for your nucleus, that is the central library to keep your cell healthy, the cell doesn't do it, okay? So, and damage to both of those softwares cause your cells to start to age. And when they start to age, they stop dividing, both the stem cells and the body cells. So here you are, your Ferrari is running down the road, all of you, your beautiful Ferraris, and somewhere around halfway along the highway, okay, you notice that the engine isn't really working too well, okay? And you notice that it's starting to sputter a little bit. And what you're starting to notice that you're starting to collect in your body when you start to feel tired and you start to get high blood pressure. What's really happening is your stem cell pool is starting to go down. But not as it's going down, the quality of those cells, if you will, are poorer. They're not able to make the proteins and things they need to make. And so eventually what happens is you start to accumulate a lot of these what we call older senescent cells. And guess what we just found out in the last few years is those senescent cells, they're not dividing, they're sitting there. Think of them as bad exhaust. What they're doing is making your healthy cells age quicker. So now we know it's really the ratio of these healthy cells versus your unhealthy cells that really determines how quickly you're going to age. And guess what? If those unhealthy cells get further damaged, you develop cancer. So what's happened in medicine, if you look at the far right, cancer, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars trying to cure cancer. We spend virtually nothing trying to prevent it. So if we understand that this whole process is a continuum, you don't get cancer overnight. It takes 7 to 10 years for a cancer cell to start and grow and turn into a problem. If your hematopoietic stem cells, your immune system is strong, it walls them off and kills them. If your other cells haven't been damaged to your DNA, this little program of house cleaning called apoptosis kills those cancer cells and even kills the old ones. So now we understand better what's going on, right? So it's like the Ferrari. You get halfway through the trip, sputtering, but guess what? If you could just stop at a gas station and fill up a super high test, you would dilute that crummy gas, you'd stop sputtering, now you can go a lot further. Well, we fixed that about 5 years ago. So now, in my clinic and in one in California and another one opening soon, you can go and get your gas filled up. Basically, we can now collect stem cells. And we can collect just healthy ones, put them into storage, and every year give you back some. So you now have a gas tank that you can fill up. But that was just step one. And I'll tell you about the other steps, how we'll get our Ferraris working much better in just a minute. So when you look at aging as a process, we all age, right? There's what we call positive developmental aging, from infants to this pretty straight young lady in the middle with a great profile. Genes are changing every few months, genes change. And we have a genetic program put in there by the Creator to turn us into healthy adults so that we can live a great life, propagate, and hopefully take care of other people. But what happens, that genetic program has a little switch in it that after so many divisions of cells, or if you're in a bad environment, you start making those unhealthy cells, and those unhealthy cells start to cause your body to age quickly. So that's called negative aging. So we know all about positive aging, we're now starting to know a lot about negative aging. So unhealthy cells secrete compounds, and if you think of that as a kind of bad exhaust coming out of your Ferrari, and you've kind of put it back into the window of your car, you're not driving too far if that exhaust is going into your car. In fact, it's eventually going to stop that car. So senescent cells are what we want to avoid. Now, and we want to try to help them not even develop. Now, reserve, as well as AMPM, have specific ingredients that help slow that process. Doesn't stop it, but helps slow that process. As Dr. Amsalog said, there's so many other things that can alter genes, which we call epigenetics, okay? And exercise, mind state, stretching, particularly your diet, okay? And even the person you love. If you have no love in your life, believe it or not, it impacts your genes. And let me just take a little aside from this. Dr. William Tiller from Stanford University had published a couple papers, and I had an opportunity to speak to him because I didn't believe what he said. And his experiment was very simple. He had a bunch of people hold human DNA in a test tube. And on the other side of the room, he said to them, look, I want you to focus your thoughts on love and compassion, okay? Well, he made them hold it first. He said, just focus on love and compassion for the next 5 minutes. Who's the person you love the most and think the most? So they did that. They took the DNA and measured it. The DNA had actually uncoiled. So where it was maybe 1/8 of a nanometer, it was now like 6-7 nanometers wide. Wow. He repeated the study. And he said, same group of people, he goes, I want you to now think of somebody you detest. Who's the worst person in your life? And I want you to focus those emotions on your hand. When he measured the DNA, that DNA was a fraction of a millimeter. It had shrunk tremendously. So for the first time, he proved that emotions can really impact your genetics. But he didn't stop there. What he did is he said, here's the deal. I don't want you to touch the DNA. I'm going to put it on the other side of the room. It's like an auditorium. And the same people had to just stand there and focus their emotions on the DNA across the auditorium. Exact same results. Wow. Now what are the impacts to that? The impact of that is what we think and feel not only affects us, but affects everyone around us. Now, and that's just a little bit of what we're learning about aging, because if your DNA is damaged, if it's not working, if it's uncoiled, it's coiled, I'll show you what all that means in a minute. So this is a simplified version of what's really happening. Here's what we know today. And I'm going to get into epigenetics, but William did such a great job, I can kind of sneak over and tell a few more stories. So again, you see when you're young, the red cells are stem cells. You have a lot more, okay? And as you develop into this optimal aging window, that's where you have developed into a perfectly healthy adult. You have virtually zero senescent or unhealthy cells. The body's working in harmony. if you were to listen to your genes and they were music, it would be like a perfect chord, okay? But what happens is you live in New York City, you're a Wall Street broker, your stress is off the wall. You don't eat dinner, you don't exercise in the morning, you stop at the steakhouse on the way home and have 3 or 4 scotches, and you end up having 5 or 6 hours to sleep a night. You develop tons of senescent cells, your DNA is damaged, and you age tremendously quickly. Now, how do I know that's a fact? In one of my books, we looked at identical twins. Identical twins. One grew up in Wisconsin on a farm, one grew up in Manhattan with exactly that lifestyle. Now, when you have identical twins, you have identical genetics, but you have 2 different environments. The guy who grew up on the farm looked 15 years younger, had virtually no diseases whatsoever, where his identical brother, you wouldn't even know they were the same people. Hypertension, diabetes, overweight, and this is the impact of all the things that Dr. Amslag was talking about on your genetics. Now, the implication of this is interesting, because it puts a lot of responsibility on you. Okay? You inherit genetic tendencies, not genetic certainties. So if anybody here in their family said, well, my father had high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, he died from a stroke, my uncle died from a stroke, my mother died from a stroke. Guess what? 30% is genetic, 70% is your environment and lifestyle. That 70% you're in charge of. So there's no more excuses about, gee, I can't. It's just, I've inherited this weakness and I'm just, gonna live my life and do whatever I have to do to enjoy it. You're responsible for your health. Okay, so let's go on here. So the Yes system, we just talked about how the products are designed to actually work synergistically. DNA repair is the key. Okay, when you have your computer and you have a virus in your software and the computer can't do anything, it just doesn't work or it works slowly, it's exactly what happens to your genetics. When you have damage to your DNA, the code for both your stem cells and your body cells to work healthy gets kind of disrupted, okay? So, and as Dr. Amslag said, there's a couple 100,000 damages to your DNA in each cell every day. So we were born with an amazing repair mechanism. And believe it or not, it's not just in the nucleus, it's in the mitochondria, the energy software, it's everywhere. And so the big question was, how can we manipulate, or how can we impact? How can we teach you or give you the information and the products to help that DNA work better? So we started to focus again on the cell. We started to focus on this product about 10 years ago. So I figured if I could figure out how to make 1 cell healthy, I could figure out how to make 100 cells healthy, right? So the first thing was nutrients. In 1920, in Cornell University, there was a gentleman who was working with his rabbits, and he realized, gee, if I give them certain compounds, and I feed them mostly protein and not a lot of carbohydrates, those animals are living 30–40% longer than the animals he fed the regular food to. They look better, they looked healthier, they didn't get cancers often. So he said, I'm going to call these things vital amines. So we get stuck with the word vitamins. And he started to investigate that, and he realized, well, human beings don't make certain vitamins, and we make other ones, but we really need to get the right amounts and combinations. So that's where the whole industry started. The key thing here is when you eat certain compounds, they get broken down into tiny little pieces. They have to get into the cell. Okay? They have to be absorbed first. They have to get into the cell. And those little mechanisms are the fuel for DNA to help repair itself and to work optimally. Okay? They also, your cell also has to remove the byproducts or its exhaust out of the cell. And if it's not getting the right nutrients, the doorways to let those things go out, the byproducts of cellular aging and function don't get out. Okay? So the secret to creating healthy cells was to look at how do we get things into the cell, how do we affect the cell membrane, how do we get them out of the cell to keep the cell healthier. And guess what? Then we realized there's another genetic program. It's not just software, but there's a sub-program that says your body does different things at night than it does in the morning. It's a whole different program that needs different nutrients. Okay? So how do we impact this whole process? Genes are very malleable. Genes can be changed, okay? Exercise, diet, meditation, all these things make a difference in what genes get switched on and off. And recently, I don't know how many people you've seen this, but there's been this article on the internet that says, Jeunesse Medical Advisory Board in Science is unfounded in health. Have anybody seen that? Yeah. Okay? Well, the only thing I can do is apologize for the lack of intelligence of people in that organization. Now, if they just Googled on Wikipedia what the word epigenetics means, they know their claims and statements are so ridiculous. And if they would just ask us, we tell them. But rather than look into the information, these are frequently things you'll see that have nothing to do with the credibility around this company. So let me just show you a very simplified gene map, okay? So when we design AMPM products, we pick special extracts of plants that will actually interact with specific genes, helping to downregulate them, or dampen them, or turn them up. Now we have 92 different ingredients. Why do we have 92 different ingredients? Because inside the cell there's about 8 or 9 categories of functions we have to adjust. So a number of years ago I started to look at what genes make energy in the mitochondria, what genes are involved in DNA repair, what genes are involved in blood sugar control, what genes are involved in glycation, inflammation, methylation, phosphorylation, propagation of adult stem cells, detoxification, a few other things. And I put a little mnemonic together. DNA repair, glycation, inflammation, antioxidants, methylation, phosphorylation, propagation of adult stem cells, apoptosis, mitochondrial detoxification and bioenergetics, and detoxification. The first letter of each one of those things spells Dr. Giampapa. That's how I do. And that was my mnemonic, and then I keep on adding information to each one of those letters, and now it's about 8 pages wide. But if I use my name, I remember. That's how you beat the aging process. The memory loss, you've got to use something. So we have 92 different ingredients. Each one of those ingredients, or groups of ingredients, work synergistically to target different genes. And you remember, I spoke about Dr. William Tiller's work about motions. Well, we know that when your DNA unravels, the genes get exposed and they can be activated. When your DNA gets tightly coiled, those genes get turned off. And you don't make the proteins you need for your organs, your hormones, your neurotransmitters. So this is a picture, or an animation picture of what your genes look like when they're turned off. Don't get angry, because that's what happens. Now, when your genes are turned on, the DNA gets unraveled like a slinky. How many people remember the slinky toys? Good, I'm not the only one. Those were great. But when I saw this slinky, I was 6 years old. I was thinking, there's got to be something more to this. And then I finally realized about 60 years later, 50 years later, that, gee, it's DNA. So what happens is, as you open those coils, DNA, the genes get exposed, and certain compounds can get in there and turn genes on. All right? So picking the correct compounds happened to be one of the things no one was looking at. And this has nothing to do with vitamins and minerals. It has to do with other things. Okay? It has to do with the natural extracts we found as the years went by that impacted certain genes. So here we were. We came up with a new product. Okay, and we looked at the 5 or 6 or actually 8 categories in the cell, and we picked the ingredients to help each one of those categories. And then we put built into those tablets as well, your body's biological clock mechanism. That is, you need different compounds in the morning than you do in the evening. How many people here have problems sleeping at night, falling asleep and staying asleep?
Not anymore.
Okay, I would say the majority. It's before AM. Okay? And in the morning you wake up, usually you wake up and you're tired and you go, oh my God, another day. Okay, but that's because your bioclock, your genetic biological clock, got screwed up. And it gets screwed up genetically from your environment, but there's actually a program that turns it off. Okay, and that actually triggers what hormones are released at the right time to make you feel better. So what we built into this was a biological clock as well. So even if I told you, which I do in my book, here's the 90 ingredients you need to take in the morning, here's the 90 ingredients you need to take in the evening. So we went out to GNC and we bought all the ingredients for AMs and PMs. They won't fit on this table. There's too many tablets.
Yes.
So that was our next task, right? So we wanted to get rid of the fillers and all the unnatural things, things that would make this a vegan product, things that would put it in the right category. So that took about 4 or 5 years. We had to figure out how to compress it into tablets where we didn't denature the proteins and ruin the compound. It took about another year. So eventually, what you have here are 2 tablets that actually address all these key components that are the key things inside your cells to help your body cells age quickly, but more importantly, to help your stem cells stay healthy. So it's the same mechanism. The stem cells and body cells basically respond to the same damage, but to the same help. Most of these ingredients come from natural areas of the world, okay? And now the problem is finding areas of the planet that are not polluted and that still produce healthy compounds. But that's not a problem. We're still doing that. Human beings evolved genetically who we are. I think genetically, we probably reached our genetic state about 500,000 years ago. So let's say I'm wrong. Let's say it's 100,000 years ago. 100,000 years ago, the planet we lived on was a whole different place. There was no pollution. There was very little stress. The only stress you really had was when a Tyrannosaurus Rex would run after you. You had to run for your life, or a saber-toothed tiger. That was pretty much it. Okay. There were times when you didn't have enough food, so you starved a little bit. Then we realized that was a protective mechanism. That turned on the sirtuin genes and turned on a handful of other genes. Okay? But the environment we lived in is completely different. Where do we live now in the 21st century? We live on a planet we were not ever designed to live on. Because of that, because of the stress, the pollution, electromagnetic waves, all the negative thoughts that all these other people are producing around you, you need something to help restore how your cells work, function, and repair them. So basically, oh, you can't see the snake. There's a snake right by my left foot. And right when the photographer took this picture, he didn't tell me until after the picture was taken. And then after he did, you would have seen me scream like a girl, but I'm so I managed not to. He did have a video, so I cut the video. I destroyed the video. So, I mean, I've been all over the place, and I just find this fun. But more importantly, when you're in nature, this is where you have peace and tranquility. So part of the program in the future we'll be talking about is how do we get you in the right mind state. AMPM was tested and proven to be absorbed by the body. We looked at absorption studies. Reserve has also been tested with the CAP-C test to document that you absorb the nutrients. One of the biggest problems you have with vitamins and minerals with everyone is that you'll find out that very few things you buy really get absorbed. And I don't want to create an ugly image, but they kind of go out the way they go in. And in the United States, we've been accused of having the most healthiest sewers in the world. So the bottom line is you have to have a product that works. So to start to summarize quickly, because I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but to me it's important you know some of these stories. AM and PM have been designed to help reprogram or restore your genetic software. Every part of you needs nutrients during the day. Sometimes you need different nutrients in different parts of the day. And all of these nutrients affect different organ systems, your brain, your bone, your brain health, your skin particularly. I don't know if you know this, your skin is your largest organ in your body. It also is the one that turns over quickest.
Yeah.
Okay? Am I still back on? Okay.
No.
So, why do we have 2 different formulas? Did I lose something here?
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's like the hook. They're trying to tell me to talk.
That's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we have just like a couple minutes. So why do you need 2 different formulas? Because the body has a genetic program that says in the evening you repair when you're sleeping. If you don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, your body doesn't have enough time to take it through the repair cycle where DNA is repaired and your hormones are restored. So if you think, oh, I can live on just 2 or 3 hours of sleep, that's me, you're wrong. In the morning, your energy components, the mitochondria in your cells, the component that makes energy, is turned up. That's why you usually feel like you can go ahead and do a lot more than you normally do. Okay, so keep in mind, it's not just the supplements or the ingredients, it's what's been designed into them. Lastly, you can see and feel the difference. This is just a study we did with almost an identical formula of AM/PM where energy In 8 weeks, people see tremendous improvement in energy. At 12 weeks, it peaks. Sleep gets better, focus, health, stress. So what we realize is it takes about a month for you to go through what we call nutrient loading. The nutrients you're getting from AMPM fill your cells up, okay? And at that time, they work even more, then they start to work even more efficiently. For about another 12, up to 12 weeks, you'll notice you feel better and better. And then you kind of maintain your health. So AMPM really is the next science beyond vitamins and minerals. We've come a little bit further than 1920 where we realized we needed certain things. Okay, I won't go through this, but if many of you have already taken the product, you know what the difference is. Okay, I'll skip this too. So reserve, very quickly. What is reserve? Now reserve, remember we talked about unhealthy cells, these senescent unhealthy cells. The key gene that causes these cells to get unhealthy is called mTOR. And guess what compound is one of the most beneficial and potent compound to turn that gene down? It happens to be resveratrol. So in this compound, in reserve, we have a special form of resveratrol. We also have a special form of antioxidants, okay? Unhealthy cells, we want to dampen mTOR. Okay, anti-inflammatory compounds which come out of unhealthy cells. We want to get rid of those. We have aloe vera, grapeseed, green tea. All of those things help turn down inflammation. Antioxidants help limit free radicals so your DNA doesn't get damaged as much. Okay, so reserve is a very interesting product in that when you take reserve, you feel the energy, and you take it on a regular basis. You become, I mean, frankly, this is probably one of the most addictive products you'd ever want because you feel the difference. And you want to have that feeling over and over again. Ingredients to help with DNA repair and maintenance. Selenium, zinc are some of the 2 key enzymes you need that most people don't get enough of. Vitamin D3, it's not a vitamin, it's really a hormone. You need that, okay? So resveratrol helps inhibit the formation of these senescent cells, and in general, that's kind of like taking the exhaust tube out of your car and putting it out the window. So a system working together for optimal cellular and total body aging is AMPM is the core fuel to reprogram your software, both the nucleus and mitochondria. It's feeding your cells what we've been genetically evolved on to use so we stay healthier optimally. Reserve happens to be a product that helps keep or dampen the formation of those unhealthy senescent cells, but also works synergistically with AMPM with its addition products we just talked about. So when you're looking at the system, you're looking at the YES system. What is the YES system? This is just a tiny tip of what the science is behind the system. This is not selling 10, 15 different products that are not related or don't work together. It's a system based on true cutting-edge science to help you experience what the science can do. So while aging is a process, okay, I told you before, 70% of your future health is really in your hands. You're not genetically predestined to be unhealthy. Okay, so this is a big responsibility. These are just some of my books on Amazon.com. One of the less textbooks. The other books are basically everything I've said you can find in all these textbooks with the medical references. And I just want to make one final comment, and Donna's wondering when I'm going to get done, is the following. If you hear complaints or concerns about Jeunesse is not founded in science, you should just feel sorry for those people who make the complaints. Because once you understand what this company is focused on, once you understand that the cutting edge science that's in these products, you experience that difference. And you then pass that difference on to other people who you know, and they tell you how they're feeling, you'll know for sure that's not a fact, okay? And no one's making claims of curing cancer, no one's making claims of curing anything. What we're making claims of is helping you live a better quality, healthier life. And with that, I just want to again mention that every one of you, there was a lot of new people here, you are not distributors. This is not just a business. You will become educators. You'll pass on this information and the experience these products give to the people around you and change their lives. And there's nothing better than to make money and to make people feel better. My pleasure.
Yes.
Let's give it up for Dr. Vincent Giampapa. had 2 of 3 great science presentations.